All right, like a lot of guitar players, I got stuck in the minor pentatonic boxes for years. It's a terrible trap. And it really wasn't until I improved my chord vocabulary and my ability to play the same chord in different voicings in different spots in the neck that I started to see the minor pentatonic scale as something other than just those big grids of dots. It helped me to use it in a musical way. So we're gonna take 5 chord shapes. We're gonna make the same C7 chord in 5 different spots on the neck, and then we're going to apply the minor pentatonic shape right next to the chord. That makes it really usable, especially as an acoustic blues player. So let's dive in. If you're not familiar with the cage method, then real quick, it comes from these chord shapes. We spell out the word caged with each shape. C, A, G, E, and D, right? From these basic chord shapes, which you should know. And what we're gonna do is take that and we're gonna make it movable and we're gonna make them into 7th chords. So this is a C7 just by adding that minor 7th tone here. So this is our first shape, C shape. And even though we call it C shape, we can play that in different spots. It's movable, and that's the magic, the beauty of the cage system. That's what makes it really powerful and a great framework. So now we're playing in D. But everything that we're going to talk about, even when we get to the scale around this, is movable, it's portable. All right. So moving on to A. This is our A7 shape using the caged shapes. So we just take what would be an A shape from caged, make it into a 7th. All right. And this one takes a little bit of mental gymnastics to get your head around, but it makes it playable. Like this is the chord for a 7th chord, G shape, and it kind of comes from this shape. Well, it does come from that shape, but that's very unplayable, not very practical. So we just boil it down to its essentials here on the top 4 strings. So G shape looks nothing like a G unless you add on all this here. All right, so then we've got E. This is our E shape. And we could also add the little finger here for our E shape. And then finally, here's a shape that I use very often in the blues, the D shape, right? We get a lot of that in acoustic blues. I'm a big fan of shrinking my focus. That really helps me to hone in on what I'm really after. So we're going to do that here with the minor pentatonic scale. We're not going to map it out across all 6 strings. We're just going to focus on the top 3 strings, and we're going to really put it to use almost immediately as we're learning it. That makes it fun, and that's the way you're going to use this anyway. So let's start by hanging that minor pentatonic scale top 3 strings on our C7 shape. All right, C7 shape, we're gonna start with the lowest note from the minor pentatonic scale that we can play easily in this shape without moving around too much. And yeah, you can move a fret one way or another and get there, but right now, this is the shape we're gonna learn. Here is the minor 7th of the scale. That's happening here, right? So no matter what key you're playing it in, that functions the same. And then the root is the 2nd string, right? It's right there, okay? Come up to the minor 3rd here, 4th and 5th. All right, so we've got this so far. All right, and you can probably hear some licks just kind of ready. They're naturally right there under your fingers, right? We don't have to do that much to get to them, all right? Now, you notice that I'm bending, whether I'm using my little finger or the ring finger on the 2nd string, I'm bending a little bit on that and just getting that little bluesy cry on it. That's a great note. As well as that minor 7th note. Those are great notes to bend. All right, so let's move on and we'll play the A shape and find some licks around it. So with this shape here, fretted, we can play that same minor 7th, and then here's the root on the 3rd string. All right, so this is fertile ground for some licks, along with the minor 3rd, which is still in the same spot, but we're gonna use a different finger to get to it. That's still here, right? So it's kind of, if you look at the shape, it's kind of in the middle of the shape, and I'm gonna really rely on my middle finger here to play that note, right? right? Again, that bluesy bend, perfect. All right, so 1, 3, minor 3, up to the 4. So we're going to get out of position a little bit, or really not out of position, but we're going to go 1 fret above the chord shape. All right, so we've got, and then here, back here, at the fret we started at, that's where our 5th is. And now here we can actually play a higher version of that minor 7th tone, right? So again, 1 fret above the chord shape. And you can hear some licks about to happen there. And yeah, I did sneak in the 4th string. You're going to find yourself doing that, especially if you already know the scale across the strings. All right, so hopefully you can see this kind of taking shape. I mean, we're not even really trying, and we're hearing some licks just about to happen, just ready to happen, just because they're right here next to the chord shapes. So here's the minor pentatonic scale with our next shape, the G shape, and then we'll add in the E and the D shape. The G shape, we're starting with the root on the 3rd string, coming up for the minor 3rd, then there's the 4th of the scale, 5th of the scale, and the minor 7th. All right, now practically when I'm using this, I'll play the chord or think about the chord. I might get up and use these fingers rather than playing primarily with my pinky and my middle finger. If you can do that, go for it, but that works really well. It's a great practical way to use this shape. All right, now this one, you might already be very familiar with this because it basically sets us up for box 1 of the minor pentatonic scale, right? But let's focus on the top 3 strings. We would play here, that's the minor 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the minor 7th. But we can also play the root. So that's what makes this really a great spot. We can bend up and come back to that root. And of course, it puts those really bendable notes right here above our root. All right, great shape to know. This one, the minor pentatonic scale, is on the top 3 strings as well. We're going to play it from the 3rd string, right? So there's the 5th of the scale, the minor 7th, and then the root. Now, when you play this, you might want to do it like this and focus on this little triangle. Makes it really comfortable to play. All right, so we've got the 5th, then we've got the flat 7. Remember? Bend up, use that to bend up to the root. That's the next note. Then we've got our minor 3rd here and the 4th. Okay? All right, right here. Under this shape. All right, I hope that this is useful to you, and I hope that it will help you map out the minor pentatonic scale in a usable way up the neck without having to think through all of the box patterns. To me, just think about the chord, right? You know, if I'm playing C7 or if I'm up here and I'm playing G7, it really doesn't matter. All of that is portable. So the licks that worked up here work right here from the G. And this is very expandable. You can absolutely add the notes from the chord to help you out. I kind of did it there at the end just out of habit, really, and because it just sounds really good. The chord tones aren't equal to the scale tones. So that gives us some crossover, and that helps to bring out the sound of the blues, put a little bit of a different color on it. And you can even take this another step further and add in some of the notes from the Mixolydian scale. If you added in the major 6, really, chord tones plus the major 6, you're there, right? the second. Don't forget that. It's a sweet tone. I've got a lesson that'll help you add those in if you're really looking to do that. But hopefully this method of hanging the scale on these chord shapes will really help you out. And before I leave you with this to practice and come up with some licks, think about this. You don't necessarily have to play the chord shapes to be thinking about that chord shape, but it helps orient you. What I mean is that, yeah, you can play, but I slipped into the A shape without playing the actual chord there, right? Over time, you're gonna get there. Spend some time, practice playing the chord shape and a lick under it, and then practice moving to the neighboring chord shape. That's the best way to get this thing going. I hope this helped you out. If it did, if you found it useful, then do a small favor for me and give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to go deeper, I got tons of information just like this inside my BGI. It's a premium membership from Blues Guitar Institute. You can check out how to join right over there. Hope to see you inside. Until next time, practice smart and play on.